Well, good evening, America. It is 7 p.m. Thursday, August 27th, and this is Queer News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It is time to queer up the news.
So watch as we bring you these and other stories from the LGBTQ headlines. Piers Morgan is seriously upset by the LGBTQ inclusive pride train, and Richard Grenell stays in the closet during the Republican National Convention speech.
Sissy Graham's transphobic RNC speech sadly follows her family's hateful legacy. And Texas teacher put on leave for promoting Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ equality.
We interviewed the director of the OUTshine Film Festival movie T11 Incomplete. And later tonight, Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the host of Gay Town Hall, LGBTQ America's most diverse cast of characters, discussed the fallout of Jerry Falwell Jr.'s actions, and it should be good. So good evening again, America. It's 7 p.m. Thursday, August 27th, 2020, and it's time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight.
Well, thank you for joining Queer News Tonight. We are live and an unedited news show, so anything can happen. It's already happened a few times already. This evening, we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and these are my co-anchors, Aaron Darr and Misty Eyes. So let's queer up the news. Tonight we bring the queer headlines. The LGBTQ community in America is diverse. The LGBTQ community around the world is vast, and we bring you the bullet points of queer news for today, Thursday, August 27th, 2020.
So let's queer up Vote 2020. Richard Grenell stays in the closet during Republican National Convention speech and makes no mention of being gay at all. Watch this.
During the presidential primary debates 4 years ago, one outsider stood alone and said in public what most Americans thought in private. It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy.
The former ambassador to Germany and former acting director of national intelligence said a lot of things during his time at the Republican National Convention last night. He touted Trump's America First foreign policy, among other subjects, and yet the fact that he is a gay man himself was not among them. Nor could he talk about LGBTQ outreach, which seems a bit odd given the fact that the Republican National Convention recently promoted Grenell as the senior advisor to that very topic. There was also no mention of the global initiative to decriminalize homosexuality. All of these wonderful things that log cabin Republicans say is a reason why Trump is supposedly so pro-gay, and there was silence. Critics were quick to point out that this was telling, as advocating for things like equality, even in passing at a national Republican audience, would probably not go over well with Trump's base.
I'm actually not surprised. If you were in a room full of lions and bears, would you be like, hey everyone, I'm LGBTQ? Probably not, but it is sad that he's ashamed of his title.
Well, What's really bizarre about Grenell's speech is he was the Germany ambassador for the United States, then at Defense Intelligence, and now he is representing the Trump campaign as the LGBTQ community's liaison. He gets a featured space on the RNC broadcast and never says anything about LGBT or the fact that he is gay. It probably tells us in spades of what the next 4 years will be like for the LGBTQ community.
You know, I actually watched this part of the Republican National Convention last night. My first thought was, what do you call a gay man who throws other gay men and people in the LGBTQ community under the bus? Is there an Uncle Tom verb for that? But outside of that, you know, his speech talked a lot about foreign policy under the Obama administration in comparison to that of the Trump administration, which now, during the Trump administration, you have consulates and embassies all over the world that since 2017, when Donald Trump took office, have been completely vacant. We have lost our standing in the world, even with our own allies. So it was very sad to see the facts, if you will, that he's trying to propel forward, and just knowing that that's not true at all, truly.
Next we queer up Vote 2020. HRC ad refutes the narrative that Trump is most pro-gay president in American history. Watch this.
Donald Trump lies.
Largest audience to ever witness an inauguration.
Very fine people. It's going to disappear.
Now they're at it again.
President Trump is the most pro-gay president in American history.
An absurd lie. The Washington Post gave 4 Pinocchios. Joe Biden helped pass hate crimes legislation, repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, got out in front on marriage equality, and supported LGBTQ healthcare protections in Obamacare. Joe Biden will be a true friend to the LGBTQ community.
The Human Rights Campaign has launched a new digital ad to counter claims being pushed by the Republicans, including former acting director of National Intelligence Richard Grenell, that President Donald Trump is the most pro-gay president in American history. The video, entitled Liar Liar, chronicles some of the Trump administration's most overused statements, including exaggerating the size of the crowd at his inauguration, his comments following violence in Charlottesville, and his claim earlier this year that the COVID-19 virus would disappear as warmer weather arrives.
We covered this concept that he's the most pro-gay president in history extensively last night at It's Happening Out. And the president of Americans for Trump, who was a guest on our show, clearly said that he's the most pro-gay president in history because he's been so good for America. He makes an economy argument, a jobs argument, an employment argument, but he did not and was not capable of addressing the specific issues related to gay. And this is what we'll have to pierce. And remember, all the Trump administration and campaign is trying to pursue is to capture 5% of the LGBT community. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to do it.
For anyone that's out there, whether they are a member of the LGBTQ community or an ally to the LGBTQ community, if anyone is out there saying that Donald Trump is such a pro-gay president, I would point to the judiciary, the makeup of the judiciary all across the country, and the appointment of anti-gay judges that Donald Trump has forever changed, appointing judges who are in their 30s that will be there for the next 50 to 60 years, that will propel those hateful notions forward that LGBTQ people don't deserve the same human rights as anybody else.
You know, it's funny because a long time ago when I was in school, it was called Orwellian doublespeak, and that's what we're watching. We next queer up Vote 2020, and reporting Sissy Graham's transphobic RNC speech follows the family's hateful legacy. The daughter of the homophobic evangelist Franklin Graham took to the podium at the Republican National Convention last night to carry on the homophobic and transphobic traditions of her father. Sissy Graham Lynch delivered a speech that was filled with tired tropes about the LGBTQ community, including attacks on transgender youth. Graham claimed that the people of faith have been forced to choose between being obedient to God or to Caesar, and she listed a litany of perceived offenses by the left in an attempt to prove her point. We think at Queer News Tonight that perhaps she should give Jerry Falwell Jr. a call and counsel him through his current crisis instead of ranting against our LGBTQ community.
Next, we queer up gay culture. Pride Games decrease anti-gay slurs among players by 40%. A groundbreaking new study shows that holding a diversity-themed game in support of LGBTQ people can decrease the use of homophobic slurs like fag by 40% among players. In the findings, 38% of hockey players who participated in these games reported using a slur in the past 2 weeks, compared to 61% of players who had not participated. The study, supported by the Australian government sales force, You Can Play, and Amnesty International, polled the 8 teams of the Australian Ice Hockey League, where over 1/4 of the players are from the United States or Canada.
Next, we queer up the USA. Texas teacher put on leave for promoting Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ equality. A Texas high school teacher's English class on virtual classroom backdrop was recently put on blast on Facebook by Marion Knowlton, a Republican candidate for the Texas House of Representatives, who objected to the teacher displaying a Black Lives Matter poster and pro-LGBTQ messages. The teacher, Taylor Lifka, has since been put on administrative leave by the Roma Independent School District in South Texas after several complaints were made following Knowlton's Facebook post, which has since been taken down. Knowlton said Wednesday morning that she deleted her original post after she was trolled and received hateful comments, which she says is a signature trait of the progressive socialist movement.
Next, we queer up the USA in reporting a federal appeals court has again ruled in favor of Gavin Grimm. The court ruled in favor of the transgender man who challenged his Virginia school district's bathroom policy, which began when he was a sophomore in high school. The case was originally scheduled to be heard by the Supreme Court in 2017, but the justices remanded it to the Fourth Circuit after President Trump rescinded guidance to public schools that said Title IX requires them to allow trans students to use bathrooms based on their gender identity.
Next, we queer up the world. Piers Morgan is seriously upset by the LGBTQ inclusive pride train. Piers Morgan said on Twitter that he is a longtime supporter of gay rights and thinks the train is ridiculous, a take that was widely panned by the LGBTQ community as a needless and toxic comment about something that is meant to be inclusive. Piers often talks about how younger people, like myself, are just snowflakes who worry about the wrong things, but Piers may need to spend some time in front of a mirror tonight when preaching that line if he keeps this up.
Next, we queer up the USA. Washington Chorus forges ahead amid pandemic. Unlike many arts organizations that have opted to sit out during the pandemic, the Washington Chorus, the DC area's only 2-time Grammy Award-winning choral ensemble, is seizing the moment to create innovative work and remain connected to their audience. We are glad they are still using their voices to inspire others.
Next, we queer up the world in reporting Trump's global campaign to decriminalize homosexuality is apparently a sham. Multiple LGBTQ organizations and human rights activists are reporting that the campaign is smoke and mirrors with zero visible accomplishments. The campaign, which was launched in early 2019, was undercut almost immediately, as days later, when questioned about it, President Trump seemed to be completely unaware of its existence, leading to questions of just how much commitment he had for the campaign. So next, let's catch up on all the news surrounding COVID-19 with our segment called Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBTQ community. First, we report on coronavirus case numbers. Based on standard acceptance of the LGBTQ community, the world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand now at 1,713,805, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 421,075. We remind you that America is ground zero of the pandemic. The USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, and today America accounts for 24.5% of all of the world's cases. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths now stand at a staggering 58,275, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 12,877. The USA is 22% of all of the world's deaths.
Next on Quarantine Quickies, can new COVID-19 saliva tests change everything for the LGBTQ community? Watch this.
Not an at-home test. How is this test better than what we've been seeing with the nasal swab?
Well, the false negative rate is really what we're concerned with. Telling somebody that they're negative when actually they are sick is very dangerous. And so the saliva test has a 1% or even less than 1% false negative rate.
But scientists caution there's not enough data yet to know how much virus is in saliva.
They're generally very accurate. They're probably a little bit less sensitive than the nasal swab, which is the term we use to mean that if people have very, very small amounts of virus, it's possible that the nasal swab would detect that, whereas the saliva wouldn't.
The new test was developed by researchers at the Yale School of Public Health, allows saliva samples to be collected in any sterile container. It is a much less invasive process than the typical nasal swabs currently used to test for the virus that causes COVID-19, but one that has so far yielded highly sensitive and similar results. Moreover, Yale intends to provide its open source testing protocol to laboratories around the country. Other labs can now adopt that method while using a variety of commercially available testing components that can reduce costs, speed turnaround times, and increase testing frequency.
I think this is amazing. If they do perfect this kit, I think this should be spread wildly and widely. I think that we should be able to test ourselves at home and mail them in. I've seen many videos where people are very traumatized by that nose invasion.
Well, a little bit of trauma, so what, in terms of managing and testing COVID. But the value, Misty is absolutely right, in terms of the saliva test. Its accuracy is dramatically higher. And the disadvantage right now is the cost is about $150. Insurance will pay, but the speed of it is also tremendously valuable. It is completely exchanged from your home with overnight delivery services. So it holds a lot of promise. And Yale promises to give the technology away to anyone who will develop it, which means the saliva test is probably going to come very quickly for all of us in the LGBTQ community.
What also is really great about this too is the increase of testing also can increase our ability to trace the spread and contraction and transmission of coronavirus. So those who are participating in the saliva tests can have a quicker turnaround, but yes, they also might be able to find out who they contracted said virus from in the first place.
Quarantine Quickies. Democrats denounced the CDC rule change as political propaganda. Watch this.
That since March, our lives have changed drastically. The invisible enemy, COVID-19, swept across our beautiful country and impacted all of us. My deepest sympathy goes out to everyone who has lost a loved one, and my prayers are with those who are ill or suffering.
Democrats across the country on Wednesday denounced an abrupt change in the federal government's coronavirus testing guidelines. And governors in some of the nation's largest states said they would not follow the new policy. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention now says that many people who have been exposed to the novel coronavirus through close contact with someone who is later tested positive do not necessarily need a test if they are not experiencing symptoms. Experts are expressing concern about the change, noting that people without symptoms are responsible for a large share of the transmissions.
Well, Donald Trump has made good on what he said was only a joke, which is, I told everyone in my government to slow the testing down because it would mean there would be less people. Well, if you test less for cancer, we have less cancer in reporting. It has no effect on how many people have cancer. This is a scary moment, as Dr. Fauci has said, in that, if anything, we should be increasing our testing. This is clearly a political move of the last 70 days of this campaign. Happening Out Television Network, including Queer News Tonight, is proud to partner with OUTshine Film Festival, which will run until August 30th. Tickets are on sale now at outshinefilm.com. All of our platforms of Happening Out Television Network will be reporting interesting news from one of the most important LGBTQ film festivals in the world. Here's a short preview about the festival. Watch this. This evening we feature the film T11 Incomplete. Kate Murphy lost everything when she hit rock bottom. Now 10 years sober, middle-aged, and living alone with her elderly cat, Kate strives to rebuild her broken life and repair her damaged relationship with her son, Jack. Barely making ends meet as visiting home health aide, Kate marches quietly through her uneventful days until she is assigned a young, beautiful paraplegic patient named Laura. Bonded by their mutual suffering, the two women share an undeniable connection, and it isn't long before they fall deeply in love. But when Kate betrays Laura's trust, her fragile world is shattered once again. Queer News Tonight welcomes the director, Suzanne Gaucci, to the show. Suzanne, good evening.
Hi, Al. How are you?
Well, welcome. I'm doing great. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. Suzanne, tell us a little bit about this interesting film.
Well, the film sort of had its genesis when I wanted to write a story about a nurse and a disability, and I wasn't quite sure what kind of story I was going to write. I'm a disabled director myself, and I knew I wanted to tell some sort of disability story. So I did a lot of research about different disabilities. I read Christopher Reeve's story, and I learned a little bit about quadriplegia and paraplegia. And when I read what a T11 incomplete paraplegic meant, it sort of opened something inside me. And T11 incomplete is an injury to your 11th thoracic vertebrae. But an incomplete paraplegic still has some feeling. They're not completely numb. So that sort of burst something open in me, and this is the story that came out about my nurse and disability.
Very interesting, because I don't think I have seen a story in the LGBTQ community like this that focuses on a love story in disability. And I didn't know that you were that you had disability, so completely clear. I'm curious in terms of your participation in an independent film festival like OUTshine. OUTshine, one of the most important LGBTQ film festivals in the world. What's it been like this year in participating in a independent film festival like OUTshine, but it be COVID-19, and how it's had to reinvent itself, and thus your participation, you personally had to reinvent how you did it. What's that experience been like?
It's good and bad, I guess. You know, the festival circuit is such a fun and wonderful way to show your film in front of, you know, the audience that you make the movie for, and giving it live. There's nothing better than that. But so it's a little bittersweet that we have this film now when we can't actually share it with a live audience. But I am so proud that OUTshine and all these other film festivals have come up with a way to still allow us to get our art out there and have an audience. And even though it's changed, and these platforms like what you're doing is just so wonderful for us, because if we didn't have them, I really don't know where we would be. So although it's quite what we wanted, we're still very, 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 very grateful.
Suzanne, it strikes me as I'm understanding the film. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to, and as I hear you talk, there's an interesting commonality for me in that. In disability, for you as the director, for your lead character in your film, there can be disadvantage. But the whole point of your direction and the film's story is overcoming the disadvantage. Isn't that exactly what you're facing this year in your film? Your film has disadvantage of COVID-19, but you're learning how to overcome it.
Absolutely. And it's all of us, I had a therapist long ago who said, we are all just temporarily able-bodied. And I feel very much that is where we are in this world. We are all sort of suffering and halted until we're able to go through it together and get to the other side of this. But it actually is a definite parallel to what's going on in the world.
I'm also struck by your film and your direction of the film in that the LGBT community is made up of so many different segments in our community, and sometimes we consider ourselves misfits, and we collectively come together as one community in LGBTQ. How has the community collectively, all of this group of different individuals and personalities, how have they embraced a story and a film about LGBTQ using disability as the metaphor for love of community? How has the community responded to it, to your story?
It's been wonderful. We had a really good start to the festival to the festival circuit back in March, or February actually, when we had our world premiere, which at Clear Screen Mardi Gras in Australia, and it was followed by Melbourne, and then it went to BFI Flair, but everything after Clear Screen got changed and halted. So, you make a movie like this, which is very personal, and made out of pure love and love for my actors, from my actors and my leading lady, Karen Silas, who is a dear friend of mine. But a movie like this is made out purely from love. So we didn't know when we put it out there what the response would be. And I have to say that the community has been so wonderful to us. We had a wonderful run that got halted, and now through OUTshine and OUTfest and things that are coming up next, it sort of gained a little bit of momentum. I think they find something maybe a little different in the story, something like you said earlier, that just hasn't been seen yet. And they're embracing it, and I'm so grateful for the love of that. Disability is something that, we all have something in this life that we're trying to overcome or work through, whether it's an emotional disability or a physical disability. But, this movie sort of speaks for everybody who's suffering in one regard or another, and that there's hope. There's hope, and there's change and growth. And good things are on the horizon if you persevere.
My last question to you is, Suzanne, and to the metaphor of what you just said, it's overcoming adversity. Your film and your story is overcoming the adversity and finding the sweet spot. That's exactly what everyone in the LGBT community is going through right now. We're overcoming the adversity of our losses in COVID-19, and your film becomes a metaphor for me. I'm curious. You did Sydney's Gay Mardi Gras and Melbourne. Those were in-person film festivals. They were still operating in February?
Mardi Gras started, and I believe, I don't even know, I think we did screen once. We had 2 screenings there, and we were supposed to go. My family and my partner, my wife, we were supposed to go to see our world premiere, and the wildfires had come right before, and then COVID came, and then I had a personal thing, so we wound up not going. But I don't even know that both it was screened 2 times. I think it screened once, and then it was all shut down. Melbourne, I don't think went, and then BFI Slurs didn't go either.
So my question to you is, T11 Incomplete is shown in a screen and the interaction of people around you, and you have that experience to be in the theater. And now you have T11 Incomplete seen digitally in a whole different way. 300 people potentially sitting in a theater watching it versus thousands of watching it digitally through OUTshine Film Festival. As I said, one of the most important LGBT film festivals in the world. You've experienced it both ways now, in person as a filmmaker, as a director, in-person presentation. Now you've experienced this new concept of digital embracement of a film and film festival. So when we finish this for 2021, which do you prefer? In place, in person, or digitally? There's advantages and disadvantages to both.
There are. It's like live theater, there's nothing better than an actual audience, but the reach, of course, is greater through the virtual world. So if there's a combination of everything, that would be my favorite.
Suzanne, right. You are expressing one of our oldest jokes here at Queer News Tonight. Us LGBT, we want everything. Suzanne, what a pleasure talking to you. America, we draw your attention. The OUTshine Film Festival, one of the most important film festivals in the world for LGBT, an independent film festival. You want to make sure you see this really incredible film about overcoming of adversity in the LGBT community, and everyone will understand the metaphor of the adversity that is overcome in this film. And I also, on behalf of everyone at Happening Out Television Network, you have no greater obligation, in our opinion, to support 501c3 not-for-profit film festivals, which is what OUTshine is. No greater time ever in history in our community than now in 2020 because of COVID. Suzanne, we wish you all the luck in this film, T11 Incomplete. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and actually very inspiring to hear you speak and us be able to talk about the particular motivations of your film.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it. God bless everybody.
Absolutely. Good night. Well,
from OUTshine to Sunshine, Happening Out Television Network is broadcasting on our brand new set in partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale, Wilton Manors, Florida. We joke the gayest place on planet Earth, and our support of their Sunday celebration is the largest LGBTQ religious broadcast in the world every Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We encourage you to tune in. Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church. Watch this.
Roseanne Patterson, Sunshine Cathedral Foundation Board. Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
We'd like to thank our set designer, Conceptual Modern Living, here in Fort Lauderdale for making this set in this queer church campus possible.
Well, we end tonight's broadcast with the big finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish. Falwell Jr. gets a $10 million payday from Liberty University as questions swirl about his relationship with another man.
Well, Jerry, you might be able to not pray the gay away, but you sure can pay it away.
Okay, so let me get this straight. He resigns, then he unresigns, and then he resigns again with a $10.5 million severance package. Let's see why a major university would want him to go away. Could it be the fact that his wife was in a twisted three-way relationship while she had regular sex with the 20-year-old pool boy while he watched in front of him? Or could it be the photo of an Instagram of himself and his wife's assistant on a yacht with his pants unzipped? Or maybe, wait, could it be the Ku Klux Klan face mask that he Twittered on the unknown reason he had sent, or the unknown reason he had sent $1 million to his wife's 23-year-old personal trainer, Benjamin Crosswhite, who, by the way, is super hot. Long story short, I'm not sure which scandal it was to tip the scale, but I'm super glad that he is leaving.
Wow, congratulations, Jerry Sr. Your moral majority founding father told me in the 1990s that homosexuality and bisexuality is the world's worst sin. And Liberty University would be a way to train the warriors of tomorrow to defeat it. I have lived long enough to relish your failure. And wow, congratulations to Jerry Jr. $10 million is enough to pay off 10 blackmailing pool boys. That's really, really impressive. The big finish. Pence calls Biden a Trojan horse for the radical left.
Coincidentally, I call Mike Pence a Klansman for the radical right.
By the way, I truly hope that he is correct. This country has taken 2 steps forward and then 1 step back when it comes to marginalized communities, like both the Black and LGBTQ communities. I would love it if he came into the White House and shook things up. I know that scares Trump-Pence campaign because they want to keep America white.
Yes, the man who has a record of nearly 50 years of public service has so many secrets to hide about his stances on the issues. This is a kind of a bad take even for Pence. America, just wait for Queer News Tonight's The Big Finish the night after the Pence versus Harris debate.
Oh, I want to see that.
Oh,
I do want to see
my God.
Girl.
The big finish. Tiger King star Carol Baskin says she wants to slap Chloe Fineman for SNL impression.
I'll tell you, when I think of Tiger King, I immediately think of like groundbreaking, just beautiful poetry, and it goes like
Poetry.
This. Roses are red, violets are blue. Go on and arrest that bitch. Get that Carol Baskin.
Right. Oh, I just want to do meth right now. Just kidding. Girl, you know what? Sometimes it can be really difficult to look in the mirror. And if you are offended by the way someone interprets or perceives you, like, for example, if she hated something that this girl did, maybe the wig or the bandana or something, she now has the power to change it.
I'm just glad whenever Carol gets mad at someone, they don't wind up dead. So a slap is really getting off easy if you're Feynman.
She's got tigers.
The big finish. Elon Musk promises a demo of a working Neuralink device on Friday.
If we could get some of those over here so that way it can help us with our teleprompter situation, should we ever be reading and we can't pronounce big
I don't know what you're
words.
talking
Reading is fundamental.
Reading is fundamental. Can we have some?
Oh, Jesus. Brain-machine interfaces. On one hand, I'd love to be able to use my devices with my mind. Please call my husband. On the other hand, with just thinking it, right? On the other hand, I'm scared of this, you guys.
She likes both hands, guys.
You stupid. Oh, do you think this could be a sign of the beast, though? I'm kind of scared.
Sign of the beast?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. The chips in your head and stuff. It kind
Did
of
someone say chips?
All right. Just like Edison, Ford, Carnegie, even Steve Jobs. Elon Musk is a little crazy sometimes, but the brightest innovators generally are.
True.
But if it involves innovation, it won't surprise me one bit if Elon follows through on this. By the way, Star Trek fans, the Board Collective is born on Friday. The big finish. Bella Thorne made $1 million. I don't even understand this. Bella Thorne made a $1 million payday in her first 24 hours on OnlyFans.
I say just as a little PSA to Melania Trump, our First Lady, after January 20th of 2021, I hear you might be unemployed. So, hey, make that money, girl. Make it rain.
Right?
Wow.
Make it rain.
Girl, good for you. Disney girl turned porn star. Awesome. I heard she made $1 million in her first day. In her first week, she made over $2 million. If it was that easy, I mean, we'd all be Kardashians and Bella Thornes, wouldn't we?
Yeah. The little known secret about Misty's facts of $1 million the first day, $2 million in the first week is Disney made 35% of that.
Oh, can you?
Oh, you straight boys and what you spend your money on. Oh, and America, I'm clearly in the wrong business. The big finish. Kimberly Guilfoy's RNC speech is now a hilarious and terrifying meme.
Yes.
You know, you see, as our viewers are seeing the memes right now, 10,000 years, I'm free, I'm here to conquer the earth. My first thought when I saw her, I was like, the hills are alive and she's freaking crazy.
You've only just seen 3 on the screen, but I have seen several of these, and they are all scary and demonic looking.
Scary. We thankfully are at the end of the hate fest we have watched this week called the Republican National Convention. There was only a few highlight laughs in the entire week. What happened to we're going to be so positive?
Oh.
None were greater than Donald Jr.'s girl and Fox News' ex, Kimberly's hilarious scream speech. Of all of the memes I have seen, the Elmo among Hellfire is the scariest and by far the most accurate. But now that the gloom and doom is over, just 2 months remain. Vote or don't. If you don't, LGBTQ America, after what we have seen this week, you get exactly what you deserve. Donald
Knight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source for live LGBTQ news in the entire world. Your community needs your support.
And as always, you're not alone, and we will get through this crisis together.
We are here with you, and this is Queer News Tonight.
So thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of my partners, Misty Eyes and Aaron Darr, no kiss blowing, we will see you daily at 7 p.m. Good night, America.